Here's a little factoid about polling, and this kind of came up as I was preparing for our boring AF politics podcast that we're going to record this weekend. But reference polling accuracy, right? And everyone knows that the 2016 polls got it wrong, right? That there was this prediction that Hillary Clinton would win, Trump won, everyone lost faith in polls. However, the 2020 polling, even though it correctly predicted a Biden victory, was way off in terms of the vote, right? And they were actually historically off. And there was this big question, what happened there? And it was a question that, didn't really go anywhere, right? It got lost in January 6th and all these other things. But amongst the people, boring academics like us, they looked at it, right? And so there was research by the American Academy for Opinion Research or whatever, one of these organizations that does opinion research polling, and they looked at questions. And there's just a little factoid in here that I think is useful for both the classes here. One of the ideas was that, all right, the polls over-reported Democrats, right? They turned out to have biased results towards Democrat by several percentage points. The question was, all right, why was that the case, right? And one idea, one proposition was that, well, what's happening is people who support Trump are embarrassed, right? And that they're underreporting their willingness. So when you get them on the phone, they say they're undecided, they say they're going to vote for someone else, right? And this is actually something that in the past has been plausible. It used to be that people would over-report their willingness to vote for African-American candidates because they didn't want to seem racist, right? That goes back, that's a poll finding. And so this kind of made sense. The thing is, though, that's an idea. That is a theory, right? That is a causal understanding of what's going on in the polls, that, hey, one side is unwilling to, in talking to a person, admit, right, that they're going to vote for Trump because he's so unpopular and et cetera, et cetera. That's a theory. We can, I heard that, by the way, and my immediate reaction was, since when is a Trump supporter bashful about, telling you this, right? And I said, look, that might have flown in 2016, but does that make sense when the guy's the actual president, right? And, so at a couple levels, I did not agree with that. However, that's not how we deal with one of these things scientifically, right? That's dismissing it. That's arguing the premises and dealing with it at a theoretical level. And you can do that to a certain extent, but it's not the preferred way scientifically. The way you deal with it and the way the opinion research people dealt with it is they said, well, look, if that idea is true, then we should see a difference in the bias found in questions of whether Trump's going to win in the polls versus other candidates, right? There shouldn't be the same embarrassment about who you're voting for the House, who you're voting for the Senate, or who you're voting for governor, right? Now, what we've done there is we've gone very elegantly from a theoretical proposition to a hypothesis, right? A hypothesis is not all that stuff, right? The idea that people are reluctant to admit that they're talking to Trump is not the hypothesis. That's the proposition, the theoretical proposition, the causal mechanism or story we're telling, right? Which makes it a theory. The hypothesis is, well, if that proposition is right, what should we observe in the world? And what we should observe in the hypothesis here is, well, there should be a difference, right? The polls should be underreporting the willingness to vote for Trump in comparison to polls about other candidates. That's a hypothesis. And oh, by the way, no. In fact, the polls were better at measuring Trump, right? They were less biased when talking about Trump than when talking about the House, talking about the Senate. Governors were the most ill report, right? Were most out of whack. So the results went exactly the other way. And there you've got research methods in a tight little bundle. That is an example that shows, I think, a lot of how we approach things from a scientific point of view.